Hey everyone, Harris O'Malley from DrNerdLove.com, brought to you by my generous patrons at patreon.com/DrNerdLove. This week, I have a question for you. Do you know what women find sexy in a man? Not attractive, not aesthetically pleasing, but what makes a woman want to peel a man's clothing off with her teeth? A lot of guys don't. In fact, a lot of guys have the absolute wrong ideas about what turns women on. Which, when you think about it, would explain why so many dudes are just sending dick pics like a cat dropping a dead baby squirrel off at women's feet and wondering why she's not happier about it. A lot of guys tend to have a very narrow idea of what they think sexy looks like to women. They tend to assume that it starts with Brad Pitt and ends with Jason Momoa. But if you ask 5 women for what they think is sexy in a man, you'll get 6 opinions. For every woman who wants to trace Khal Drogo's abs with her face, you're gonna get just as many women who want to lick frosting off of Paul Hollywood. Or, for that matter, the women who are really into Kristen Brune, or who think Winston Duke's the hottest thing since World War III. The problem stems from a fundamental misunderstanding about what makes a woman decide to say yes to sex. A lot of folks start from the position of assuming that women aren't as interested in sex and have to be persuaded into it. And that is a topic all of its own, and if you want to go more into it, let me know in the comments. But to those guys, the answer is to focus on the arousal process. This is why we get so many douchey products whose premise is, this will make her so uncontrollably horny, she can't not f*** you. Which is not how this works. The question that you should be asking isn't, how do I get her to want to have sex? It's, why should she want to have sex with you? Nobody out there is so uncontrollably horny that they are just gonna pounce on the nearest warm body like a leopard from a tree. Not when it's easier and more reliable to go home and rub one out. That shower head may not be much for cuddling, but it'll get the job done. To mangle a metaphor, think of a woman's arousal process like a car. You've got the accelerator and you've got the brakes. The accelerator is why she wants to have sex. She's horny, she wants the intimacy, it feels good. The brakes are reasons not to have sex with someone. Self-image, risks of pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, the person she might be interested in sleeping with is an asshole, possibly lousy in bed, or might otherwise make her feel unsafe. A guy who is sexy is someone who both gives her reasons to want to have sex, but also helps take away the reasons not to. That's why what makes a man sexy is a mix of the physical and the mental. So to help you level up your inner sexy badass, I am giving you 5 ways that you can find that balance that makes you irresistible. Tip number 1. The first thing that makes you sexy is the way you look. Now, I want you to notice very carefully, I didn't say you had to be good looking, I said the way you look. While yes, being conventionally attractive is helpful in general, it doesn't make you sexy by default. You can ask any woman, and they will have stories for you about guys they have known who had a body that could make a saint kick in a stained glass window, but they had other traits that rendered them utterly unfuckable. When I say the way that you look, I mean your presentation, the way that you dress, the way that you take care of yourself, the way that you present yourself to the world. That tells people a lot about you, and that makes all the difference in the world when someone is deciding how interested she may be. Dressing well with clothes that fit properly, a good haircut, and a decent sense of style can completely transform a guy in women's eyes. This doesn't mean that you need to be dressed head to toe in Saint Laurent. Even a t-shirt and Levi's can be suave as hell, as long as they're clean, they're pressed, and they're the right size and cut for your body. Similarly, it doesn't matter if you've got perfectly sculpted cheekbones or not, because if you look like someone who thinks that personal grooming is something that happens to other people, nobody is going to want to sleep with you. Gentlemen, no woman is interested in running their hands through greasy, oily hair and a scraggly, unkempt beard that's covered in dandruff isn't going anywhere near her thighs. Beardruff, it's a thing. You can be one of the unequivocally hottest guys in the world, but if you look like you just came back from spending 5 years lost on an island in the South China Sea, nobody's gonna want to get close to that. Seriously, He looks like he smells like feet. And we've talked a lot about how confidence is sexy, and the way that you dress is part of how you convey that confidence. Are you investing in you? Are you showing that you're giving a damn about yourself? Or are you telling other people that you don't believe in your own value? And if that's the case, then why should they expect that you're going to be worth their time when you're not worth your own? The second secret to being sexier is develop your presence. How do you make someone feel when you're talking to them? Are you dialed in, paying attention to them, or are they just one more thing that you're only giving some of your attention to? This is far more important than people realize. Most of us are dealing with 1,000 distractions at any particular moment. Even when we don't mean to, it is very easy to give the impression that you're not actually interested in talking to someone. On the other hand, someone who is ignoring all those distractions, who has chosen to give us their full attention, is a hell of a lot hotter than someone who isn't. There are few things sexier to a woman than a guy who thinks that they're fascinating. Giving lots of strong eye contact, paying attention, not being distracted, and, importantly, being able to show that they're listening, that they're actually taking in what she has to say, not just faking it. That makes people feel good. It makes them feel like they're important and interesting, which, let us be honest, is not something most people feel in their day-to-day lives. But what makes this sexy is what it says about you. One of the things that makes a woman decide whether or not they're interested in sleeping with someone is whether the sex will be any good. After all, it's very easy for guys to get off. Men will orgasm in 90% of sexual encounters, whereas only 66% of straight or bi women will achieve orgasm while having sex with a man. A lot of guys, especially if it's a casual encounter, simply aren't invested in women's comfort or pleasure. A man who demonstrates that he is interested in her, that he's paying attention to her, and not just trying to find someone to use like a human fleshlight, is someone who is demonstrating that he is going to be paying as much attention to her in bed as he is in the bar. The third secret to being a sexy badass: being comfortable with your body and knowing how to use it. Here's the thing that trips up a lot of men. Most of us aren't comfortable with our own bodies, in our own skin, or with our sexuality. It's part of what makes us feel awkward or shy or undesirable. We feel like if we are not perfectly ripped, then nobody could ever be interested in us. But not only do women love a wide variety of bodies, and I refer you back to Paul Hollywood, but a guy who knows how to use his body is hot as hell. Because like I said, one of the ways that women decide between going home with you and going home to her battery-operated boyfriend is whether the sex will be good. One of the ways that they determine this is in what a man does with his body while his clothes are still on. Most communication is, after all, nonverbal, and the way that we move, the way that we touch someone, even the way that we stand still, all send messages about who we are. And if you want to make the leap from nice to nice, then you want to send the right messages. Now, the great thing is that there are a lot of ways of conveying this, but one of the ways that I find is the easiest and most accessible to people is to learn how to dance. And I don't mean just pulling shapes on the club floor or what have you, but partnered dancing. Because while being able to tear up the dance floor when the DJ drops your favorite track can be impressive, partnered dancing is a very different beast, and one that speaks far more towards your skill in other areas. If you want to see this in action, watch Dirty Dancing. This is stayed as one of the most popular movies among women for decades because of the connection that's built through the way that Johnny and Baby dance together. The attraction and the intimacy are all built and expressed by how they dance with each other, and the fact that he is a great dancer to start with is a huge part of Johnny's appeal. And that is something that you can make work for you. Partnered dancing, whether we are talking about ballroom, swing, salsa, merengue, cha-cha, what have you, is about two people working together. This means that communication, particularly nonverbal communication becomes key, especially giving and receiving clear, unmistakable signals. Both the lead and the follow have to pay attention to one another to make sure they stay on the same rhythm. The lead has to be confident, maintain a strong frame, and use physical contact to convey meaning and intent. If one person's off rhythm, or giving off weak or mixed signals, if the other person isn't paying attention, or if they are just not in sync with one another, then everything falls apart, toes get stepped on, and it's no fun for anyone. And while not every occasion is going to allow for demonstrating that you can dance, the lessons that you learn from dancing, from being comfortable with casual contact, knowing how to touch someone with confidence, even simply how to stand and move with grace and fluidity and rhythm, come across in other areas in your life. A guy who can dance well is a guy who's going to be in demand for other things. F***ing. I'm talking about f***ing. Tip number 4. This one catches guys off guard because, quite frankly, a lot of men conflate things like confidence and assertiveness or being alpha or high value with, frankly, acting like an asshole. It comes out on insisting on being in charge or domineering, making demands, or trying to prove that you're the toughest motherfucker in the room. And that's actually not desirable in a lover. In reality, the traits that science have found that actually make someone more desirable as a lover are kindness and altruism and being considerate. Despite the number of dudes who will swear up and down that being the asshole who couldn't care less is gonna make you the guy who crushes all that kindness and altruism were consistently better predictors of both sexual desirability and overall mate value. If you stop and think about it for half a second, it makes sense. Dominance and aggressiveness are seen as being more threatening. A man who insists on being in charge or who's more dominant with other men may well be as aggressive or dominant with someone that they're sleeping with, and not in a fun, consensual way. Women tend to see guys who act like that as being more likely to use threats, aggression, and coercion on them, which frankly kills the mood. Desire and arousal can't coexist with fear or stress. On the other hand, kindness and altruism are what are known as pro-social behaviors. Behaviors that are indicative of someone with higher emotional intelligence and positive social qualities that mark them as a person who is also more likely to be less selfish, self-involved, or an otherwise lay. These are behaviors that women are consciously on the lookout for, from paying attention to how you treat the staff at restaurants and bars to how you talk about the other people in your life. Or for that matter, paying attention to how you treat them. Are you someone who is concerned with their comfort and pleasure, or are you bulldozing over their concerns or boundaries? Kindness and altruism has to be part of who you are as a person. It has to be a sincere part of you, because women are on the lookout for telltale signs that you're faking it. Knowing that a person is genuinely kind is important to them, because every woman out there has a story about a guy who was a crouching nice guy, hidden douche canoe that did a 180 as soon as the sex was over. And a guy who starts off nice but acts like a dick, even without malicious intent, is going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. No amount of, oh, he's so hot, is going to counter, I specifically said I don't like that, and then he did it anyway. Neither is pushing against her boundaries, however softly. She didn't want another drink. Cajoling or teasing her into getting another is one of the clues that you're not going to be someone that she wants to get naked with, because apparently to you, no is something that happens to other folks. On the other hand, prove that you're someone who's conscientious of others, and more importantly, someone that they can trust. That is going to be an aphrodisiac. And incidentally, kindness mixed with strength? Whew, gentlemen, invest in some tearaway pants. Tip number 5, you need confidence. And I know, confidence comes up around here only slightly less often than Fight Club. That's because of how important it is and how often people get confidence wrong. The problem is that folks mistake confidence for fearlessness or for being certain of success, for never questioning yourself, not having insecurities, or other things that honestly have nothing to do with being confident. Confident isn't about being fearless, it's not about being smooth or suave, it's not about being cocky or thinking that you're perfect. It's simply about being willing to do what you need to do and knowing that you're capable of doing it even if it terrifies you. Because without confidence, you're not even in the game. A guy without confidence is the guy who plays Schrodinger's date, where you've asked someone to hang out and it may or may not be a date, depending on how she responds. A guy without confidence is the guy who does the tentative hand touch or accidental arm brush instead of just taking someone's hand or putting their arm around them, or who waits until somebody else makes a move instead of, say, asking if he can kiss her. A guy with confidence will take ownership of his interest instead of trying to pretend he's too cool to care. A guy with confidence isn't afraid to let someone know he's interested in her. He's not going to play stupid availability head games. He is someone who's going to let her know he wants to take her out on a date, or if things are going well and she's feeling it, take her home. A guy who isn't confident is going to be the guy who hopes, maybe if he leaves things ambiguous, he can turn it into a date later on. After all, you can't get shot down if a woman doesn't know you're asking her out in the first place. A guy with confidence may be nervous. He may stammer. He may feel his heart pounding so hard he's surprised that she can't hear it. But he will do it anyway, whether it is asking her out on a date, asking for the kiss, or moving things to the bedroom, because he knows what he wants and he's willing to do what it takes to get there. You can be scared and still be confident. You can be awkward and still be confident. Hell, some women love that. The guy who comes off like a nervous pangolin is often the most adorably sexy thing ever, because for a lot of women, the intersection of kindness, awkward cuteness, and confidence is what makes their panties disappear. Just remember, gentlemen, the most important tip is the guy who's sexy is also the one who's non-judgmental. One of the most interesting studies around women and casual sex found that one of the most important deciding factors, something that utterly determined whether or not a woman would go to bed with a guy, even a guy she did not know, was whether or not they removed the risk of judgment and social shame. As it turns out, the biggest reason why women aren't interested in sleeping with a guy is because guys not only tend to be bad lays, but they also have a tendency to turn around and call those women whores or sluts afterwards. The trap of, I want to f you, now I'm going to insult you for letting me f you, is hands down the reason why women seem less interested in sex in general. After all, bad sex and getting called a whore afterwards? Who wouldn't want to sign up for that? Guys who are going to judge a woman for the sex she has or hasn't had are guys who women don't want to sleep with. What they are doing is demonstrating that they are self-centered, they're insecure, and they present a greater risk to women, physically, emotionally, or socially. On the other hand, a guy who can accept a woman for who she is, who isn't hung up on bullshit ideas about purity or female sexuality, is a guy who actually has sex appeal. The greatest seducers in the world are the ones who actually respect their partners. Sex is collaboration, not conflict. It is about what you two bring together, not what do I need to do to get what I want. Being interested in your partner's desires and pleasure and respecting their boundaries increases their desire for you. This shouldn't be surprising. After all, knowing your pleasure is important to your partner makes that partner more desirable because you know the sex is gonna be so much better with that person. The guy who's going to judge you for doing the things he wants you to do is a guy who's just gonna do what it takes to get himself off. The sexiest men in the world aren't the best looking ones. They're the ones who are invested in making sure that everybody has a good time, whether it's over the course of the relationship or just for tonight. So that is going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching my video. You have heard from me and I want to hear from you. What is it about somebody that makes them unspeakably sexy to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, I am answering some of your dating questions in my new Ask Dr. NerdLove series of videos. So if you've got a short dating question that you would like to have answered on here, hit me up, share that in the comments as well. Maybe the question I'll be answering next week will be yours. Meanwhile, if you you want to develop the skills to meet new people, learn how to talk to strangers, and turn people you have just met into friends and lovers, then you want to check out my book, New Game Plus, The Geek's Guide to Love, Sex, and Dating. This is the instruction manual you have always been looking for. It is the A to Z guide for learning how to level up your inner Casanova and find the relationship you have always been looking for. Links to buy it are in the show notes, so go check it out. And if you do check it out, or any of my other books for that matter, do me a huge, huge favor. Be sure to rate and review it on Amazon and Goodreads. It is a giant help to me. And now, if you dig in the series, you know what to do. We're at that part. Hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, yada yada, yakety schmackety. But if you are really enjoying these videos, and I mean really enjoying them, if you feel like you're getting a lot out, you're finding that it's really helping you, and you want to support the channel and in the process, fund some amazing new projects, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/drnerdlove. Even $1 is a huge help because it covers things like hosting and equipment costs, and it lets me keep having this conversation with you. And like I'm always saying, I cannot do this without the support of my patrons, so thank you all so very much. Meanwhile, follow me on Twitter at @DrNerdLove. Join the private Facebook group NerdLove Academy at facebook.com/groups/DrNerdLove. And as always, hit that logo to subscribe, check out my other videos, and I will see you here next time with more about love, sex, and dating. Later.